So we're diving into self-compassion today. We've got excerpts from Kristen Neck's book, Self-Compassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself.
It's an incredible book.
Yeah, it seems like it's full of really good stuff. And I'm really interested in this scene that she starts with, this relatable scene of a couple arguing about groceries
Right.
and how that kind of plays into this whole concept.
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant. It's such a good way to start because it shows how much we project and blame,
Okay.
how common it is.
Mm-hmm.
And Neff really highlights how much time and energy we waste doing that.
Yeah, it's like we're all just pointing fingers
Yeah,
and missing out on actual connection.
totally.
So Neff calls this tendency self-judgment, and she says it's one of the biggest roadblocks to happiness.
And what's really interesting
Mm.
is how she compares this need, this constant need for positive self-evaluation to like a sugar high and crash. Like we get this temporary boost from feeling superior or putting others down,
Right.
but it's always followed by that crash
Right.
when we realize we can't maintain that perfect image.
And I feel like that crash often leads to shame, which then brings on that harsh inner critic
Yeah.
that we all know so well.
Right. It's this cycle of not feeling good enough
Yeah,
and then beating ourselves up for it.
exactly. So this is where Neff's discovery of self-compassion comes in. And it's interesting because she found it through Buddhist teachings.
Which I love.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a cool...
Because she admits she was skeptical at first,
Oh, yeah.
which I think a lot of people can relate to. You hear self-compassion and think, oh, is that just going to make me lazy?
Oh, absolutely.
Like complacent?
Yeah, people take that all the time. But what Neff actually found was that self-criticism, it wasn't making her a better person. It was just fueling her insecurity and frustration.
Right.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Neff argues that compassion is relevant even when people make mistakes.
Oh, wow.
Like she uses this example of a homeless man
Okay.
who might be struggling with addiction. And she says, even then, he's worthy of compassion,
Right.
as are all of us.
As we all are.
It's this powerful reminder that we're all inherently deserving of kindness,
Just by virtue of being human.
just because we exist.
And it's not just some feel-good concept. There's actually research to back it up.
A ton.
Like a 2012 study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that self-compassion is linked to lower levels of anxiety and depression, along with increased optimism and life satisfaction.
So powerful.
Right. But if self-compassion is so beneficial, why are we so prone to self-criticism?
Well, Neff really digs into this, and she talks about how our upbringing plays a role. Like she tells this story of a man who internalized his mother's negativity.
Oh, wow.
And it shows how these early messages can really shape our inner criticism.
Like we carry those critical voices with us. We
Yeah.
do. And it's not just our families, right?
Mhm.
There's this whole cultural element too.
Absolutely.
Like Western societies often emphasize individual achievement. So we end up blaming ourselves when we don't reach those sometimes unrealistic ideals.
And those ideals are everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder we struggle.
And Neff proposes this really interesting idea of self-criticism as a means to control, especially for those of us who grew up with controlling parents.
Oh, that's fascinating.
It makes you wonder, are those harsh self-judgments really about pushing ourselves to be better, or are they about maintaining a sense of control
That's a good question.
in a world that can often feel chaotic?
Really is.
And this is where Neff's approach gets practical.
Yeah.
She introduces this exercise
Okay.
where you write a letter to yourself from the perspective of a compassionate friend.
I love that exercise.
It's such a good one because it forces you to step outside of your own self-critical perspective and experience what it feels like to receive unconditional kindness and understanding.
It's powerful.
It is. And Neff even shares this anecdote about a snot bubble incident on a date in high school
Oh, gosh.
to illustrate how even in those moments
Yeah.
of utter embarrassment, what we need most is self-compassion.
We really do.
And it's not about denying the awkwardness or pretending it didn't happen. It's about offering ourselves kindness and understanding amidst the cringe.
Amidst the cringe.
And this leads us perfectly into Neff's discussion of mindfulness and self-compassion.
Oh, yeah, they're so connected.
She emphasizes the importance of cultivating awareness of our thoughts and feelings without judgment.
So important.
And I love her movie theater analogy. Mindfulness creates that space between us and our reactions, allowing us to observe our thoughts and emotions without getting swept away by them. It's
Yeah.
like realizing you're watching a movie and not actually in danger.
Right.
even though your heart might be racing.
Yeah.
Suspense.
Exactly.
So Neff provides several mindfulness exercises in the book. One involves simply noting the sensations, thoughts and emotions that arise without judgment.
It's just noticing.
Just noticing.
Agreed.
And another one focuses on feeling your emotions in your body and sending compassion to those areas of discomfort.
So good.
These exercises are all about training our attention to be present with our experience in a kind and accepting way.
Yeah.
And as we strengthen those mindfulness skills, we naturally become more capable of self-compassion.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating how these practices are so interconnected. But I'm curious, isn't there a concern that self-compassion might lead to laziness or lack of ambition?
Oh, totally. That's such a common concern. But Neff's research actually shows that self-compassionate people, they have high standards. Yeah. Just like those who are self-critical.
Really?
Yeah. The difference is they're less likely to be harsh on themselves when they don't meet those standards.
Okay.
So it's not about lowering your standards. It's about changing how you treat yourself when you inevitably fall short.
So it's about the approach,
Exactly.
not the outcome.
Yes.
And she uses the example of Holly, a student who initially believed that self-criticism was the key to motivation.
Interesting.
But Holly eventually found a more fulfilling path through self-compassion, even shifting her career aspirations from business to special education.
That's a big change.
It is, and this highlights the difference between learning goals and performance goals, which is so crucial. People driven by learning goals are motivated by curiosity and a desire to grow. They embrace mistakes as part of the process.
Whereas those with performance goals, they're focused on external validation, avoiding failure, which can lead to a fear of taking risks.
And not really challenging themselves.
Exactly.
So many of us fall into that trap of constantly performing for this imaginary audience instead of authentically engaging with the world.
Like we're always on stage.
We are.
And that's exhausting.
Is.
And it prevents us from truly showing up as our authentic selves.
Exactly. So Neff's work suggests that self-compassion can help us shift from that performance-based mindset to a more learning-oriented one.
It's a total game changer.
It is. And that can have a profound impact on both our personal and professional lives.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the role of self-compassion in our relationships.
Okay.
How does that dynamic play out?
Oh, this is where it gets really interesting. Neff explains how our deepest needs for acceptance and understanding can actually create challenges in our relationships.
Oh, especially romantic ones.
Especially romantic ones.
We often turn to our partners to fulfill those needs.
Right.
But relying solely on them for self-worth can lead to disappointment and conflict.
Absolutely. It's like we're putting all our eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of pressure for anyone to handle.
It is.
And she uses this great example of Diane and Eric.
Okay.
Their relationship was so strained by Diane's need for control, which stemmed from past trauma.
Wow.
It wasn't until Eric helped her understand and practice self-compassion that she could let go of that need.
Right.
And they could create a more fulfilling relationship.
It really highlights how self-compassion doesn't just benefit us individually, but also positively impacts our relationships.
Right.
When we offer ourselves kindness and understanding, we're less likely to project our insecurities and unmet needs onto our partner.
We're able to show up with more wholeness and authenticity.
Right.
And Neff and her husband, Rupert, they experienced this firsthand.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They had these playful nicknames for their own ingrained patterns.
Well, that's interesting.
Abandoned little girl for Neff, and unfairly treated little boy for Rupert.
I love that.
It so perfectly captures the essence of their deeply rooted emotional wounds.
Yes.
And what's remarkable is that by understanding these patterns and offering themselves compassion, they were able to communicate more effectively and create a more harmonious relationship.
It's so inspiring. It's a testament to the transformative power of self-compassion.
It really is.
Both for ourselves and for our loved ones.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder if a lot of relationship conflicts are really just cries for self-compassion in disguise.
That's a really good point.
Now, Neff also tackles this societal obsession with achieving high self-esteem.
Oh, yeah.
And this is something I've always been curious about. We're constantly told that high self-esteem is the key to happiness and success. But is that actually true?
Well, Neff challenges that assumption, and she points to research that shows self-esteem programs haven't really produced the desired outcomes.
Like that California task force on self-esteem that
That's-
invested so much in those programs
Millions of dollars.
and didn't see significant results.
Not really.
So what's the problem with self-esteem?
Well, Neff delves into the flaws
Mm-hmm.
of contingent self-worth.
Okay.
This idea that our self-esteem hinges on external validation and achievements.
So we're constantly chasing after that feeling of being good enough,
Exactly.
but it leaves us miserable when we inevitably fall short.
Because it's an impossible standard to maintain.
Right. And it's like we're trapped in this perpetual cycle of seeking external validation.
Which Neff compares to a hedonic treadmill.
Oh,
You just keep running and running, needing more and more to get that same fleeting feeling of self-esteem.
And didn't she also say that even our good deeds can be sabotaged by this?
She did. She talks about the needy, greedy ego and how it can taint even our acts of kindness. Like she gives this example of Susan, a woman who dedicated her life to helping others, but she was driven by this need to feel superior.
So it wasn't truly selfless.
Right. It was still coming from a place of ego.
That's fascinating. So if self-esteem isn't the answer, what is?
Well, instead of chasing that fleeting high of self-esteem, Neff suggests cultivating self-compassion,
Okay.
which is about accepting ourselves,
Yeah.
regardless of our achievements.
So it's about recognizing our inherent worthiness.
Yes.
Flaws and all.
Flaws and all.
That's such a powerful shift in perspective.
It is.
It's about embracing our wholeness.
Our strengths and
Our
weaknesses.
joys and sorrows
Yes.
as part of this rich tapestry of human experience.
It's beautiful.
It is. This deep dive into self-compassion is already so eye-opening.
It's a powerful journey.
It is. I can't wait to see where else it leads us.
Me neither. It's a journey that really unfolds in layers.
So where does this idea of self-acceptance fit into all of this?
Well, Neff introduces this concept of self-appreciation as a healthy alternative to the pitfalls of self-esteem.
Self-appreciation. How's that different? I'm imagining someone constantly bragging about how great they are, which doesn't seem super helpful.
It's not about inflating the ego or seeking external validation. Self-appreciation, as Neff describes it, is about acknowledging and celebrating our strengths and positive qualities,
Okay.
just as an act of kindness and gratitude towards ourselves.
So instead of focusing on what we lack or what we need to improve, we're intentionally focusing on what's already good and strong within us.
Exactly.
Okay.
And she links this to a Buddhist concept called sympathetic joy,
Sympathetic joy.
which means feeling genuine happiness for the success of others.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like a muscle we can strengthen. And it ties into self-appreciation. Because the more we can celebrate the good in others, the easier it becomes to recognize and appreciate the good in ourselves.
So we're expanding our capacity for joy by acknowledging and celebrating the good wherever we see it, both in ourselves and in the world around us.
That's it.
Ah.
Neff also highlights the importance of gratitude, like practicing gratitude journaling, where we consciously reflect on the things we're thankful for.
Yeah.
And she talks about savoring,
Yeah.
which is consciously enjoying pleasurable experiences, really soaking in those moments of joy and contentment.
I love that. It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle and forget to appreciate those simple joys.
It really is. And these practices of gratitude and savoring, they're powerful antidotes to that negativity bias that Neff talks about earlier.
Right.
They help us shift our attention away from the things that are wrong and towards the things that are right,
Okay.
cultivating a more positive and appreciative outlook on life.
Speaking of challenges, Neff also tackles the topic of self-esteem,
Yeah.
which is something so many of us struggle with.
What do you do?
She points out that we're often led to believe that high self-esteem is the key to happiness and success. But she challenges that notion, citing studies that show that self-esteem programs haven't really achieved the outcomes. They were designed for, like that famous story about the California Task Force on Self-Esteem. They poured tons of money into these programs
Millions.
and didn't see the results they were hoping for.
Nope.
Why do you think that is?
Well, Neff suggests it's partly due to the flaws of contingent self-worth.
Okay.
This idea that our self-esteem depends on external validation and achievements.
Right.
It keeps us constantly chasing after that feeling
Hmm.
of being good enough,
Yeah.
but it leaves us miserable when we inevitably fall short.
Because it's an impossible standard to maintain.
Exactly. And
It's like that hedonic treadmill concept we were talking about.
Yeah.
We kept running and running, needing more and more to get that same fleeting feeling of self-esteem.
it never really satisfies.
It doesn't. And didn't Neff also say that? Even our good deeds can be sabotaged by this.
She did. She talks about the needy, greedy ego and how it can taint even our acts of kindness. She gives the example of Susan, a woman who dedicated her life to helping others.
Okay.
But she was driven by this need to feel superior.
So it wasn't truly selfless.
Right.
It was still coming from a place of ego.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. So if self-esteem isn't the answer, what is?
Well, instead of chasing that fleeting high of self-esteem, Neff suggests cultivating self-compassion.
Which is?
It's about accepting ourselves regardless of our accomplishments.
Okay.
This allows us to step off the treadmill and find a sense of peace within ourselves.
That makes sense.
Now, Neff doesn't just talk about self-compassion in a general sense. She also delves into how it can be applied to specific areas of life.
Like parenting.
Surfing, for example.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of us could use more self-compassion there, both for ourselves and for our children.
Absolutely. She talks about the importance of modeling self-compassion for our children.
Just showing them how to handle mistakes and setbacks with kindness and understanding. So instead of getting angry or critical when they mess up, we approach them with empathy and help them learn from their experiences.
Exactly.
And teaching them that it's okay to make mistakes.
It's okay to be imperfect.
Yeah.
And that they are not defined by their failures.
Right.
Neff even suggests specific tips for disciplining children in a way that encourages self-compassion.
Oh, interesting.
Getting clear boundaries, correcting behavior without resorting to shame or harsh criticism.
Because I think a lot of us tend to replicate the parenting styles we experienced, even if those styles weren't particularly helpful or compassionate.
That's true.
Yeah.
We often fall back on what we know,
Yeah.
even if it wasn't the best model.
Yeah.
So Neff suggests techniques like time in instead of time out,
Wow.
focusing on connecting with the child
Yeah.
and helping them understand their emotions, rather than isolating them as a form of punishment.
Okay.
It's about teaching them how to regulate their emotions and respond to challenging situations in a skillful way,
Right.
rather than resorting to self-criticism or acting out.
And what about teenagers? That's a whole different ballgame.
It is. And Neff acknowledges the unique challenges of raising teenagers.
Yeah.
They're navigating intense emotions, peer pressure, the complexities of developing their identities.
Right.
So she stresses the importance of helping them understand that their experiences are not unique, that everyone goes through similar struggles and insecurities.
So normalizing their experiences, letting them know they're not alone.
Exactly. And she shares her own experiences parenting her son, Rowan, who is autistic.
Oh, wow.
It's a powerful example of how self-compassion can be a lifeline for parents facing extraordinary challenges.
So accepting our children for who they are, even if they don't fit societal expectations.
Absolutely.
Celebrating their unique strength. Offering unconditional love and support.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
And speaking of challenges, Neff dedicates a whole section to exploring how self-compassion can help us navigate difficult emotions and challenging life circumstances.
Okay. I think that's where a lot of us struggle the most. When things are tough, it's easy to fall into patterns of self-blame and negativity.
It really is.
Yeah.
Our instinct is often to turn on ourselves when things are hard.
Right.
But Neff provides specific exercises and techniques for coping with difficult emotions like anger, anxiety, and grief.
Interesting.
She emphasizes the importance of allowing ourselves to feel those emotions fully, without judgment.
So instead of trying to push those emotions away or pretending they don't exist,
Right.
we create space for them.
We acknowledge their presence.
Exactly.
It's about validating our own pain and suffering,
Okay.
acknowledging that it's okay to feel hurt, scared, or sad.
Right.
We offer ourselves the same kindness and understanding we would offer a loved one going through a similar experience.
And this is where mindfulness comes back into play.
It does.
Do you remember that analogy Neff uses? The one about the red cardinal bird flying across the clear blue sky?
Yes.
One of my favorites.
Good one.
The bird represents our thoughts and emotions, which are constantly changing and often erratic.
Right.
The sky represents mindfulness, that vast, unchanging space of awareness.
That holds those thoughts and emotions.
And the key is to identify with the sky, not the bird.
Exactly.
It's a reminder that we're not our thoughts or emotions, but rather the awareness that holds them.
It's a powerful shift in perspective.
It is.
That can liberate us
Yeah.
from our reactive patterns.
And allow us to respond to life's challenges with more wisdom and equanimity.
Yes.
And in those moments of difficulty, Neff reminds us to recognize our common humanity.
We're not alone in our suffering.
Right.
Everyone experiences pain and heartbreak at some point.
Knowing that we're not alone in our struggles can make all the difference.
It can.
And this recognition can help us extend the same kindness and understanding we offer ourselves to those around us. So it's like self-compassion ripples outward.
Creating a more compassionate world for everyone.
I love that.
Now let's move on to how self-compassion can help us navigate romantic relationships,
Oh, yeah.
which can be a source of both great joy and deep pain.
That's for sure. I think this is an area where so many of us could benefit from more self-compassion, especially when things get challenging.
Absolutely. Neff emphasizes the importance of taking responsibility for our own needs and feelings,
Okay.
rather than expecting our partners to fulfill them, understanding that our partners are not responsible for our happiness,
They're not.
but rather companions on the journey of life.
So it's about cultivating self-compassion as a foundation for healthy and fulfilling relationships, rather than relying on our partner to make us happy.
Exactly.
That's a big difference.
It is. And Neff offers some insightful exercises for working with relationship patterns.
Oh, interesting.
She encourages us to identify our emotional triggers and offer ourselves compassion when those buttons get pushed.
So breaking free from those cycles of reactivity and blame
Yes.
that can sabotage our relationships.
And she also emphasizes the importance of understanding and accepting our partner's emotional patterns,
Okay.
recognizing that they too are carrying wounds and insecurities from their past.
Right.
It's about creating space for empathy and compassion in our relationships,
Yeah.
understanding that we're all imperfect beings doing the best we can.
And Neff even shares personal anecdotes.
About her own relationship with Rupert,
Oh, wow.
revealing how their childhood experiences shaped their emotional patterns
Interesting.
and how they worked through them with self-compassion and mindful communication.
It's so inspiring to see how self-compassion can not only transform our individual lives, but also create more harmonious and fulfilling relationships.
It's powerful.
It is.
Now, another area Neff explores is sexuality,
Okay.
which is often shrouded in shame and self-judgment.
That's definitely true. There's so much pressure to conform to certain norms and expectations, and it can be really challenging to embrace our sexuality authentically.
It can. So Neff challenges those societal norms and encourages us to embrace our sexuality in a healthy and fulfilling way.
How does she do that?
Well, she emphasizes the importance of accepting and honoring our sexual desires and preferences, regardless of whether they align with societal standards.
So recognizing that there's no right or wrong when it comes to sexuality, just what feels authentic and fulfilling for each individual.
Exactly.
Okay.
And even if we've made mistakes in our sexual past or are struggling with body image issues or shame, it's about being kind and understanding toward ourselves.
So offering ourselves compassion and acceptance rather than perpetuating those cycles of self-criticism and judgment.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, Neff also explores how self-compassion can cultivate more positive emotions,
Like joy.
gratitude, and contentment.
Okay.
She highlights Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build theory of positive emotions.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
It suggests that positive emotions like joy and love, they broaden our thinking and our capacity for experiencing the world.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like these emotions create a ripple effect,
Okay.
making us feel good, expanding our perspective, our creativity, and our ability to connect with others.
So it's not just about feeling good in the moment, but about fostering those positive emotions to enhance our overall well-being and resilience.
Exactly.
Like that.
And Neff's research suggests that self-compassionate people tend to experience more positive emotions,
Really?
which in turn boosts their well-being and resilience.
So it's like self-compassion creates this virtuous cycle.
Yeah.
By being kind to ourselves, we cultivate positive emotions, which leads to more opportunities for joy, connection, and fulfillment.
Exactly.
And Neff offers examples of how self-compassion can help us access those positive emotions, even in challenging situations, like seeking out experiences that bring us joy, whether it's spending time in nature, listening to music, connecting with loved ones.
Or practicing gratitude, taking time to appreciate those small moments of beauty and connection
Right.
that we often miss in the rush of daily life.
It's about training our minds to seek out the good, to savor the sweetness of life,
Yes.
even amidst its inevitable challenges.
Now, Neff also shares some really personal stories throughout the book,
Oh.
including her experiences traveling to Mongolia with her son, Rowan, seeking healing for his autism.
Oh, wow. That must have been an incredibly challenging and transformative experience.
It was. They faced a lot of resistance and judgment for their decision to seek out a shamanic healer,
Really?
but they chose to trust their intuition and do what they felt was best for their son.
That's amazing.
It speaks to Neff's willingness to step outside her comfort zone and embrace unconventional approaches to healing.
And it highlights the importance of being open-minded, especially when it comes to healing and personal growth.
Absolutely. And Neff describes the profound impact the shamanic healing had on Rowan,
Oh, wow.
as well as the transformative effect it had on her and her husband.
It's a beautiful testament to the power of love, compassion, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. I find it so encouraging that even in the face of such significant challenges, there's always room for healing and growth.
There is always hope.
Yeah.
And this leads us to the final chapters, where Neff brings everything together,
Okay.
offering a synthesis of self-compassion's key principles and practices, along with practical tips for integrating them into our daily lives.
This is where it all comes together. How do we take all these ideas and actually put them into practice?
Well, Neff emphasizes the importance of patience.
Oh,
You know, cultivating self-compassion is a journey, not a destination.
right.
It's about gradually shifting our habits of mind and heart, replacing self-criticism with kindness, isolation with connection,
Yeah.
judgment with acceptance.
So it's a process of unlearning those deeply ingrained patterns of self-criticism and replacing them with new ways of being.
Exactly.
And she reminds us that self-compassion isn't about achieving perfection,
No.
but rather about embracing our imperfections
Yes.
and offering ourselves the same kindness and understanding we would offer a loved one.
Treating ourselves
Yeah.
with the same gentleness and care that we would extend to a dear friend who is struggling.
And she encourages us to view self-compassion as a practice, something we cultivate through intentional effort and repetition, just like any other skill.
It's like learning to play an instrument or speak a new language.
Right.
It takes time and dedication.
So it's not a one-time thing,
Yeah.
but an ongoing commitment to being kind and understanding towards ourselves, even when we mess up or fall short of our expectations.
Exactly.
And Neff provides a wealth of resources and exercises to support our practice,
She does.
including guided meditations, journaling prompts, and compassion-focused imagery techniques.
The whole toolkit.
It is. It's exciting to think about the possibilities that open up when we choose to embrace self-compassion.
It's truly transformative.
It is.
And Neff concludes the book with a powerful message of hope and possibility,
Okay.
reminding us that self-compassion is a gift we can offer ourselves, no matter our circumstances.
It's a source of strength and resilience that can help us navigate life's challenges with more grace, ease, and joy.
Absolutely.
Wow, this deep dive into self-compassion has been incredible. I'm so impressed with how Neff brings together the research and the personal stories and the practical exercises to create such a comprehensive guide.
It is a really rich exploration.
It is, and it feels so accessible.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like she's giving us permission to be human,
Right.
to embrace our imperfections, and to offer ourselves that same kindness we would offer a dear friend.
Which is a pretty radical idea these days.
It is, in a culture that often values self-criticism and achievement above all else.
It goes against so much of what we're taught.
It does.
But Neff's work is such a powerful antidote to that.
It is.
It's this reminder that we're worthy of compassion simply because we exist.
Just because we exist, our worth isn't contingent on what we achieve or how well we perform.
Exactly.
That's so freeing. It's like we can finally step off that hamster wheel
Right.
of constantly striving for external validation and you just allow ourselves to be.
And that shift in perspective can be truly transformative.
It can.
It's about recognizing that our worthiness is inherent, not earned. It's about embracing our wholeness, our strengths and weaknesses,
Our joys and sorrows.
as part of this beautiful complexity of being human.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to come back to you, the listener. We've covered a lot of ground, but how can you take these insights about self-compassion and actually integrate them into your own life?
Well, I think the first step is simply becoming more aware of your self-talk.
Okay.
Notice those moments when you're being harsh or critical or judgmental towards yourself.
Catch yourself in the act of
Yeah.
negative self-talk.
And once you're aware of those patterns, you can start to challenge them
Right.
and offer yourself alternative perspectives.
And that's where those practical exercises from the book can be so helpful.
Absolutely.
The letter writing
It's
exercise
self-compassion, brain.
and mindfulness practices.
Find what resonates with you and make it a regular part of your life
Even just a few minutes each day.
of mindful breathing.
Or offering yourself a few kind words.
It can make such a difference.
It's a practice A journey, not a destination.
And what's so beautiful is that the benefits extend beyond ourselves.
Right.
When we're more compassionate towards ourselves, we're naturally more compassionate towards others.
It creates a ripple effect, fostering a more loving and supportive environment for everyone.
It's like self-compassion is contagious.
In the best possible way.
Exactly.
Well, this has definitely inspired me. To deepen my own practice of self-compassion, it feels like a whole new world of possibility has opened up.
It really does.
And the beauty of this journey is that it's ongoing.
Always more to learn and discover.
About ourselves and our capacity for compassion. So as we close, I want to leave you with a simple question to reflect on. What is one small act of self-compassion you can offer yourself today? Maybe it's taking a few minutes to relax and recharge, treating yourself to a delicious meal, or simply acknowledging your efforts and accomplishments. Whatever it is, let it be a gift of kindness, a reminder that you are worthy of love